Welcome to the channel, Buzz Technology.
Review Apple iPhone X. The future of Apple smartphones.
10 years after the launch of the first iPhone, Apple has launched what it says is the phone that kickstarts the next decade for the iPhone. It's the biggest shift in iPhone design since Steve Jobs launched that first device, introducing a new range of technologies to Apple's smartphone as well as shifting the user interface in a whole new direction. In many ways it's a celebration of 10 years of the iPhone, hence the iPhone X name, but in other ways it is an ambitious step forward. Apple isn't just ditching a connector this time around, it's ditching one of the iPhone's most iconic interactions, the home button. With the Apple iPhone X now available to buy, is this the most important iPhone since 2007? Do those new technologies really add anything, and, perhaps for many, it is really worth the money?
Design.
The big thing about the iPhone X is that it's a completely new design. Featuring a glass front and back like the new iPhone 8 models, the new iPhone X will come in two colors, space gray and silver, and feature a polished stainless steel frame around the edge that shimmers and catches the light in the same way the stainless steel version of the Apple Watch does. It's a notably different feel to aluminum phones, and that, combined with the weight that comes with it, gives the iPhone X the premium feel it needs. Sporting a 5.8-inch screen, the display real estate is larger than the iPhone 8 Plus, but the chassis is considerably smaller, thanks to the shift in the display aspect. Those who've always felt the Plus was too big will be very happy with the new design changes, because those bezels top and bottom have been banished, resulting in a phone that is much better proportioned than the iPhone Plus sizes ever were. That edge-to-edge display is stunning, with the top notch that's packed full of sensors the only thing interrupting the design. Apple has, perhaps more than any other manufacturer, aimed to give you as much display as possible in the frame. Many of these phones, the Google Pixel 2 XL or new HTC U11 Plus for example, still have bezel top and bottom. Even Samsung, who takes things in a different direction with curves at the edges of its Infinity display, still has space top and bottom of the display, while Apple has a great uniformity to the remaining bezels, apart from the notch, of course. It's a refreshing new look for the iPhone, one that's likely to appeal to those who felt the old, unchanging design was getting a little stale. This is Apple very much moving with the times, as more and more smartphones offer this new bezel-free approach, but also setting a new standard at the same time. That's resulted in a move that might scare some. Apple has ditched the home button and Touch ID. Yes, the beloved home button, something that has been present on the iPhone for the last 10 years, is gone. You now go home with a swipe up from the bottom, with new ways to access Siri and multitasking. It's a change to adapt to, and one that, for the first few days, will catch you out, as you jab at where the home button used to be. The new gestures and button controls are surprisingly easy to get to grips with, however. Apple Pay has been moved to a double tap of the now longer button on the side, which also doubles as a long hold to activate Siri too. Again, very Apple Watch-like. No home button. Naturally, this means no Touch ID. For the iPhone X, Apple has opted for facial recognition, working with the hardware-based technology Apple is calling Face ID. It is fast and it saves you the problem of opening your phone while wearing gloves or with sweaty hands, though it makes unlocking your phone a much more deliberate gesture than before. Ditching the home button also has another side effect, losing some of the iPhone's iconic visual design that has been with us for so long. The new design instantly dates the iPhone 8 models that were launched alongside the iPhone X. With this new design leading the way, there's a sense that the much-loved iPhone design of old will soon be retired.
Display.
One of the key focuses of the X is the new display, which dominates the design. Apple is appropriately calling this the Super Retina display. The new display measures 5.8 inches on the diagonal and offers a 2436 x 1125 pixel resolution for a 458p pixel density. The eagle-eyed will have spotted that the resolution doesn't sound familiar. One of the big changes here is that switch-in aspect that we talked about in the design. This is an important move, enabling more display space without the phone growing in size. Apple isn't officially talking about what this display aspect is, but it's something like 19.9. For reference, LG is using 18.9 and Samsung 18.5. 9, so these are all pretty much in the same ballpark in terms of the shape of display you end up with. For the iPhone, this is also a significant increase in resolution. The 458p leaps ahead of the 401p that you'll find on the iPhone 8 Plus. What does this mean in the real world? It means more detail is crammed into the screen to make things sharper and look better. That's not only for viewing photos, but it enables crisper text and graphics, smoother curves, and generally, more scope for the iPhone X to show off the other major change in technology, the OLED panel. It's not the highest resolution on a smartphone, but it is one of the highest quality displays you'll find. OLED has been used in smartphones for some years, but Apple's only dalliance with the technology has been on the Apple Watch previously. Its implementation in the iPhone X is similar to the Watch 2, with inky deep blacks and precise punchy colors, only on a much larger scale. It is bright, crisp, and very impressive, even in bright sunlight. Compared to other flagship devices, we have to say it's one of the best displays we've seen, leaning towards the natural end of the spectrum when compared to something like the Samsung Galaxy S8, which boosts color vibrancy a little more. Like other smartphones, you will be able to tap the screen to wake, and that works really well. As for that so-called notch, we've not really noticed it. Although people are talking about it as some sort of design aberration, it's just a thing on a phone, and it becomes part of the experience. In daily use, when flanked by black-in apps, it disappears almost entirely. That's thanks to OLED's ability to shut off the light completely from those areas of the display. When watching a full-screen movie, yes, there's the notch at one side, but in the grander scheme of things, Notchgate is a storm in a teacup. Once you're using the phone, it really doesn't matter. The display also features Apple's True Tone tech found in the iPad Pro range, changing to suit the environment. The idea is that the color balance in the display shifts with the ambient light. True Tone works really well, however purists might prefer to turn it off, because it can mean your display is shifting from cool to warm tones as you're using it. If you've not seen the technology before, it does take a little getting used to, especially when you can see it changing and shifting in real time as you move the phone around. Apple's display is HDR ready too. HDR is the latest thing in TV tech, and the move to bring it to the iPhone will likely help adoption and availability of HDR content on a wider scale. The iPhone X supports HDR10, the generic HDR format, as well as Dolby Vision, which is rather more rare. HDR and Dolby Vision content is readily available and supported by Netflix, so you can watch that on day one. iTunes has also moved to support HDR in a big way through Apple TV, and you will be able to watch that content in HDR on your iPhone X too.
Unlocking your iPhone with Face ID.
Face ID is the new way to unlock the iPhone X, and Apple has put a lot of emphasis on getting it right. Powered by the A11 Bionic chip, all processing is done on the device rather than via a server, meaning you will be able to unlock the phone regardless of your connection to the outside world, and without sharing your face data anywhere else. Setting it up takes about 30 seconds, and once enabled, you will have to actively look at the sensor array at the top of the device in the notch to unlock your phone, and you will still need a PIN as backup. In the real world, it's worked 9.5 times out of 10 for us. It's not perfect, but it's very good. To boost the chances of it working even more frequently, you can set the iPhone to only unlock if you are actively looking at the display. The technology behind it scans and maps your face with 30,000 dots, checking for depth, so you can't spoof it with a picture, and it must be able to see your eyes, nose, and mouth. That's fine with a wig, hat, most sunglasses, or a scarf for example, but covering up your mouth with the scarf will cause it not to work. This is a different to the face recognition or iris scanning you will find elsewhere. The facial recognition is blisteringly fast, fast enough that you don't really have to wait for anything to happen, although we suspect many will feel they have to wait for the padlock icon to change. You don't. The Face ID tech works in all the environments we tried: outside in the sun, in a pitch black room, on the train, in a bar. It just works. Unlike Touch ID that would automatically take you to the home screen, Face ID still requires you to swipe up to go beyond the lock screen. It's something you can't change, but does mean that you have a chance to look at your notifications first. For us, we've quickly found that you simply pick up the phone and swipe up. By the time you've done that gesture, the phone has unlocked and you're off doing what you meant to be doing. Where we've found Face ID doesn't work though is when the iPhone X is out of line of sight, like on your desk next to your laptop or keyboard. You can no longer tap in commands at arm's length without picking up the phone or typing your passcode. The way around that? Use Hey Siri and get Siri to do it for you instead. Apple says compared to Touch ID security, it has gone from 1 in 50,000 chance of someone else opening your phone to 1 in 1 million with the face, although it's only ever as secure as your PIN code you have to tap in if it fails. Still using your birthday? Shame on you. Touch ID apps will automatically work with Face ID. We've already tried it with NatWest and Barclays banking apps, and that includes Apple Pay and third-party apps from the start.
Camera.
The iPhone X Plus has two new 12-megapixel cameras on the rear using a similar configuration to the iPhone 8 Plus and the previous 7 Plus, so that's a wide-angle lens and a telephoto lens. The big difference on the iPhone X is that both these cameras offer optical image stabilization, whereas on the Plus phones, only the wide-angle lens is stabilized. The only other phone that stabilizes both cameras is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, so this is a pretty unique feature. Zoom photos feel the effect of shake more because of the longer focal length. Having OIS will mean sharper close-ups when using that zoom lens. The aperture on these cameras comes out at f/1.8 and f/2.4, again beating that of the iPhone 8 Plus, meaning more light can make it into the camera, which should result in better quality images in low-light conditions. The camera's performance is top-notch, with a fantastic level of detail in images. Low light is good too, with the optical image stabilization helping on both cameras, but you do have to still make sure you have a steady hand and set the shot up. If you rush, it still looks awful. The two rear cameras deliver fantastic images in a variety of situations, while the front-facing camera performs well too. It's still a 7-megapixel sensor, but the technology around it has been upgraded, allowing you to take portrait selfies using the same depth effect techniques used on the rear-facing cameras. Apple has also introduced a feature in beta called portrait lighting. This aims to recreate the effect that you'd get from a professional lighting rig in a studio, allowing you to take some really interesting portraits, fuss-free. It works on both the front and rear cameras, using data from both lenses to create a depth map and ensure that the virtual lighting falls as it should. In action, the results from portrait lighting are mixed, and it is still very much a feature in beta. Of the different modes, our favorite has to be Studio Light, the second image above. It adds a lovely brightness to the picture without adjusting the overall exposure and contrast, and the results really lift the picture, especially faces, even on a bright and sunny day. Some of the pictures we've taken are almost DSLR-like in quality. It's that good. The ones we don't like are Stage Light and Stage Light Mono, far right above. The results from shooting on the iPhone X using portrait lighting are either laughable or stunning. It's that divided. Thankfully, portrait lighting is a non-aggressive filter you can apply to any picture you've taken in portrait mode, so if you don't like the effect you can change it or turn it off altogether.
A new Apple A11 Bionic processor.
The iPhone X shares the same internal specs as the new iPhone 8 models, with the introduction of the new A11 Bionic processor, which features 6 cores, 2 high-power cores and 4 efficiency cores. There is more power and greater efficiency, along with a huge boost to graphics. There is the promise of 2 hours increase on the battery performance of the iPhone 7. Which is a roundabout way of saying it will last a little longer than the other models. In our aggressive testing, it is on par with the iPhone 8 Plus. As we always say, how long the battery lasts depends on what you do with it. We've easily been able to achieve a full days of testing with the camera and all our daily apps, and still have power to get us home in the early morning. That's all-day battery life to us. To help you get topped up throughout the day, Apple has introduced 2 new techs, quick charging and wireless charging. The shift to a glass back means that you can now wirelessly charge the iPhone X. Apple is using the key wireless charging standard, meaning that it will work with a wide range of devices that are already available, from charging mats to in-car charging pads, to IKEA furniture and Starbucks. Apple is expanding on this option too, with plans to release a charging mat of its own called AirPower, which will also change the Apple Watch 3 and the AirPods, if you opt for the new AirPods wireless charging case. We've tested iPhone X with both the new MiFi wireless charging pad and the competing offering from Belkin, although there are others. Wireless charging isn't the fastest, but it works. Quick cable charging comes with a caveat: you have to use the right charger to get it to work, and that's not something that comes with the phone. You also have to use a Lightning USB Type-C cable. Using an old cable doesn't work. You can use the MacBook charger for this. However, we've also tested it by connecting to quick chargers that shipped with Android phones and found it worked with no problem. In reality, quick charging is a lot more useful than wireless charging. Other improvements we've noted are improved speakers that are louder than the iPhone 8 models and give you a greater sense of width to the soundstage, meaning ad hoc video watching or gaming just sounds better.
iOS 11, with a twist.
The Apple iPhone X launches with iOS 11, as you'll find on the iPhone 8 and a wide range of previous iPhones too. Specific to the iPhone X are a couple of changes that come about as a result of not having that home button. You now swipe up from the bottom to go home. A longer swipe will allow you to access the apps that are open. And then there is a circular thumb motion or left and right swipe at the bottom of the screen to change apps. There are also new controls for accessing Siri, Apple Pay, and taking those all-important screenshots. There are other features of iOS that are now specific to iPhone X because of that lack of a home button or the new screen. Interestingly, the iPhone X doesn't feature the iOS landscape mode found on the iPhone Plus models, and you can't display the battery percentage anymore. You have to swipe down in Control Center to see it. Control Center is accessed by swiping down from the top of the display, with a split to separate Control Center from notifications. This is still very much an iPhone, though, and much of the interface is familiar enough to dive straight in, even if it will probably take a few days to adopt that new home action. We've been using the iOS 11 in public beta form since it was first launched earlier in the summer, and more recently the full version of iOS 11 on both the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus. Some features which seemed only interesting to begin with have now become a core part of how we use our iPhones and iPad. We really like the new Do Not Disturb While Driving feature that automatically texts people to say you are driving, and the ability to access all our stored passwords either via settings or in-app. It makes setting up your new iPhone X much easier. As for apps fitting that new resolution screen, they are quickly adapting to the new design. While we've been reviewing the iPhone X, we've seen quite a few apps update to accommodate the notch and take full advantage of the screen space now available. If they haven't, you get a letterbox looking rather like they did on the old iPhones.
Verdict.
Apple says that this phone will kickstart the next decade of the iPhone, and it isn't wrong. The screen is big and stunning, the device smaller for that edge-to-edge approach, and the underlying tech is more than capable enough to make it shine. Undoubtedly, this is the biggest and boldest change to the iPhone so far. The ramifications of what the iPhone X is setting out to do are wide-ranging. Looking at the iPhone 8 afterward, it dulls by comparison. For us, the iPhone X is not only the most Apple Watch-like device the company has created, but also the most premium. The polished stainless steel, the old display, and the overall look and feel of the package is quality and premium aesthetics. The only complaint is that premium costs. It starts at $999, and that for many will either make it unattainable or something to aspire to owning. Is it worth the money? Many will choke on their tea and say no way. Many, as we've seen through pre-order numbers and day one queues, will be happy to pay, while some won't. They will claim that you can get all the same technology in a device from another manufacturer for less money, and they would be right. If you're an Apple Power user looking to get something different from the rest of your iPhone using friends, and different to the phone you've been using for the past few years, then this is the big change you've been waiting for. At the same time, you get all that without rocking the boat too much, because the iPhone X is still very much the iPhone you know and love.